People always ask how I balance my family life with 400 shows a year. I'm just doing what I love with the people I love. It's my magic life.
I like Wes Iseli. I like everything about him.
All right, on today's episode, we have an amazing magician who specializes in the corporate and trade show market. I first met this magician at a magic convention a whole bunch of years back. And then all of a sudden, he was everywhere. I ran into him at a dealer booth at another convention. I saw him on tour lecturing. I saw him at a national lecture where he did, I think it was IBM or SAM. And every time I see him, he oozes class, and his magic looks like what magic is supposed to look like. It doesn't look like somebody doing tricks. It looks like this dude does magic. Everybody, let's welcome Michael Kaminskas. What's up, buddy? How are you?
Hey.
Hey, nice to see you, Wes. How you doing, man?
Dude, I'm doing good. I'm doing good. Shows are coming back. Things are coming back. I'm excited, man. Feels good.
I'm super excited about that. You know, it's been a long time for all of us performers, right? So getting back into the saddle and, you know, I mean, I never had jitters before, but, you know, you do a show now and it's totally different. You know, it's been a long time for a lot of us.
It was pretty brutal, man. My thing is right now I got a hurt foot, so I can't go to the gym. I can't get on the treadmill. I can't hike on my trails. So that's my main concern right now. We're doing shows, but I'm limping around, and it's bothering me. I'm not 100%, so that's a drawback.
Well, hopefully that'll heal up for you. I mean, you know, that's a temporary thing, but you know, the big thing is that, you know, we're seeing faces in the crowds, and we're getting to share what we love to do.
Right? It's so nice to be back live in person. So it makes a huge difference.
Did you do any of the Zoom shows?
Yeah, so originally I really started out not really doing a whole lot of Zoom shows. But then, you know, COVID set in like for a long time, and I was like, oh man, I need to keep on top of this. So, you know, I had a big lecture schedule and everything for last year, and I had a lot of performances, and I was supposed to be at like 15 conventions, and you know, all of that stuff got canceled. I mean, I was in Salt Lake City performing at Mesquite Dining when, you know, the world shut down last, you know, I guess 2 Marches ago. And it was just, you know, flew out of there, and I was supposed to be at the Castle the week after that performing, and it just everything just snowballed, right? So it was one of those things like, where do we go from here?
Yeah, well, I mean, I for me it was, it's only 2 weeks. It's only a 2-week lockdown. It won't last till Easter. There's no way it's gonna last past 4th of July. There's no way it's gonna go to Christmas. You know, and it just kept going and going and going, man. And I did a private school show today, like a summer camp for a private school. It was outside on the playground, you know, for kids, I don't know, 5 years old to 15 years old. And they wanted, you know, all the adults to wear masks. And I'm 30 feet away from the front row, and outside on a playground, it's hard to breathe through that thing, man. They don't know the rules. Nobody knows what they're supposed to be doing, and they don't want to get in trouble. So they don't want to just say we're outside.
Right? So, like, you know, we don't blame them because
right.
You know, what we want is we want to get out there. We want to entertain. We're entertainers, you know. And even in the corporate market, I'm pitching products or whatever, and that's starting to open up again. You know, a lot of my friends I see are, you know, working some more trade shows and finally getting back into it. But, you know, it's been slow. It's been a slow return to normalcy, as I would call it. You know, so, you know, as far as, you know, for what I do, I mean, I have like a dual-sided magic career. You know, obviously I've written many books and I do lecture around the world, and, you know, and then there's the other side of actually, you know, performing and doing jobs for, you know, for paying clients. So, you know, it's a whole different thing in terms of what I'm doing because, you know, rather than getting 100% of my income, you know, from, you know, actually just performing, you know, a large portion of it is, you know, working the trade shows, the magic conventions, the lecture circuit, you know, teaching magicians, you know, basically giving them the benefit of, you know, the years of experience that I have.
That's awesome. It's good that you're able to do that, and to have that. You have great products too, man. So it's not like you're just pitching stuff to be pitching stuff. Well, we'll get into all that. Let's start back at the very beginning. How'd you get started in magic? What's your origin story?
Well, I wish I had like something like really spectacular to tell you, but I mean, my story is like many others. You know, I saw a magician at a friend's birthday party, and you know, it was like, okay, this is cool. You know, and after that, I was kind of hooked. You know, I saw it, and I was like, you know, I want to learn this, and you know, I went back and told my mom and dad, who had never done magic, you know, whatsoever, and I'm like, you know, we need to find a magic shop. So we drove to Center City, Philadelphia, and you know, went to a magic shop downtown there, and later on, I met Bob Little, who was, you know, closer to me because at the time I lived in Lansdale, which was next to Hatboro, which is where Bob is from. And, you know, it's so, you know, and it's all about connections and people and who you meet, right? So, I mean, some of my closest friends I met through magic. So, you know, I'm sure you're the same way.
Oh, absolutely, man. And, you know, having Bob Little nearby and big city, I'm out here in, you know, middle of nowhere, Virginia. And I felt like the nearest magic shop to me was Denny and Lee, and that was like a 3.5 hour drive north. So I had Abbott's catalogs and Tannen catalogs that I did my shopping out of, and Hankley, yeah.
Well, and if you know have to drive 3 hours for a shop, Denny's shop is probably worthwhile, right? So, I mean, you know, the one I love Denny. You know, he's a great guy, and you know, I spent a lot of time in his shop and lectured for him. You know, probably 5-6 different times in both of his shops, and you know, I can't say enough good things about him because he wasn't about selling you the latest and greatest thing. In fact, he didn't even carry that in his shop. You know, he steered people, you know, towards the fundamentals. You know, they wanted to learn the sleight of hand. You know, it's like, here, this is the book you need. This is where you need to go to. And he wasn't above saying, hey, you have a problem, come back in the shop. I'll sit down with you and go over it. You know, that kind of service and that, you know, that kind of dedication to the art, it's really not seen in too many places.
Well, in my memory of Denny, I got my first real gig on my own doing a sideshow magic show for a farm in Virginia Beach, and I was doing, you know, sideshow stuff, and I was asking about animal production books and sideshow books, and he had a pamphlet or a book on anything, and his organization system for books and manuscripts in the back, you know how it looked. I mean, but he knew everything, where everything was, and he was able to just pull it for me and throw it over the counter, and just an immense resource right there. It was awesome. I could always call him with a question, and he had an answer. He didn't have to Google it or look it up. He had the answer.
Now, so did he have his pot-bellied pig when you came in the shop? Was Baby there?
Yeah, absolutely. I got a picture hanging in my workshop in my backyard of me, Denny, and Baby. Yep.
That's awesome.
It's probably a 12 by 17 picture I have hanging in my workshop. I love it. Yeah. So how far away were you from them? Pennsylvania, Maryland? Where are you at?
So I've been like in the, you know, Maryland, D.C., Pennsylvania, you know, the tri-state area, you know, pretty much all my life. And I'm back between, you know, different places. I've got a, you know, family lake house up in the Poconos that I go to, and you know, I was in Maryland for a long time, and I went to University of Maryland, which is where I graduated school, and I worked at Barry's Magic Shop, and just outside D.C., really in Rockville, you know, for many years, and you know, helped Barry out, and you know, I learned so much by working from him. You know, he actually, you know, was one of those guys that would be, you know, he's quirky, hilarious, you know, and the thing what I learned most is that when you work in a magic shop, you learn how to entertain. And whether it's Al in D.C. at Al's Magic Shop, or Barry, or, you know, or Mark Mason, you know, the best demonstrators are the best entertainers, because that's what sells magic.
Dude, 100%. Mark Mason scares me, because I would buy, you know, a $50 Svengali deck off him. I mean, he could sell me a Svengali deck for $300, because everything looks like the most fun trick he's ever picked up. He's having the most fun with it. He's entertaining, and it's like, you know, you want to have this much fun, you need to buy this trick, and it blows people away.
And I'm so lucky, you know, that I get to call these people friends, right? Like, you know, when the best thing about being a magician and being in it for, you know, many years as I have at this point, I still think that I'm not as old as I am, but, you know, I look back in the mirror and I say, you know, heck, you know, I wrote my first book, I was, you know, whatever, 18 years old, and then I put Miracle Material out with L&L Publishing, and I was like maybe 20 at the time, and I mean, so, you know, I have so many good memories, and being able, and I was fortunate, you know, I was fortunate to have Michael Amar write the introduction. I was fortunate, you know, to be in the places that I was, to be exposed to a high level of magic. and that really was able to excel and push me to where I want to be, where I was. Right, I was not happy with the status quo. Like, how can I, get better? How can I get? I always tried to push myself. Even at Barry's shop, we had, Puck worked there with me, and Scott Alexander and Elaine New. So like, I mean, we had like the who's who of Magic. We had Scotty York around the area. We had Darwin Ortiz. I mean, Bob Sheets. I mean, it was such a great place to be in at that time period, because there was so much good magic, in the area. So many, Charles Green, so many great magicians there. So, and everybody was in it to make everybody better. And I think that's what magic is about, right? It's about building the art and sharing. And when I see people who are like, well, it's like, I'm not going to do this. Like, we're all in it together, and everybody makes everybody look better or worse, right? So why not help everybody to be the best magician they can be?
That's one of my pet peeves. I'm writing a set of lecture notes now, and one of the things that I'm teetering on, because I don't want to be too lecture-y in a lecture, but some of these Facebook groups where these people are just panning other magicians and just bringing them down. It's like, professionals don't do that. Professionals, you don't need to, make yourself feel better by tearing other people down. And, we're better than that, man.
Yeah, it's definitely not about that. It's about, maintaining, the standards and the ethics that we have. And that's difficult now. It used to be easier, back before we had the internet and everything else. And because now people, I see all these, magicians that are performing, but they have no idea about the history. They don't know they're performing these moves, and you ask them what move is that or where it came from, and they have no idea. Right? And so, like, to me, that's a thing where, like, I want to educate them. I'm not saying that it's bad. Like, I want them to understand that, this is not, this was done, back in the 20s or the 30s or whatever, and this is the lineage, and this is how it happened. John Ramsey started this, and then went to this, and then went to this, right? So trying to figure, how it is, and just kind of get them more in sync rather than just copying somebody and not knowing, like, where or how that magic got to that point.
Yeah, I mean, I love magic. It's everything to me, but I am guilty of that as well. I'll know the names of some card moves, but then other ones, oh yeah, it's that trick. Yeah. Oh, that move. Show it. Somebody will mention something, and I'm like, I don't know. Show it to me. Oh yeah, I do it this way.
But
and
you probably already do it, but you just don't know what it's from, right? And so that's the thing. That's where, being around, older guys that have been around and have been like, okay, yeah, I know the person, like the shapeshifter move, perfect example, like, Mark D'Souza.
Right.
When he came up with amazing card change, and I see people do it all the time, and they have no idea. Like, they're just like, I have no idea where this came from. And I'm like, it's this who created, this is what book it's in, and I'm a little biased because I have a library that has over 6,000 magic books in it. So for me, books are like my thing. Some people learn by watching. Not that I haven't put DVDs out and VHS tapes back in the day and everything else, but books for me are the printed word to me, and that it seems like more everlasting. It has the thing that kind of like the other stuff. Media changes, it dies, it goes in and out, but paper, print, it's going to be there.
Well, that's also Denny teaching there. That's Denny coming through. Books, man. But yeah, I'm the same way. I don't like, in the new age, I'm a little bit younger than you, but I can't stand PDFs. Somebody sells me a PDF or a digital download. I'm like, you didn't give me anything. It's going to be lost to my computer. I'm not going to have a good filing system. It's going to be gone in 6 months. If my computer crashes, it's gone, but I'll have that book. I'll have the DVD on my shelf.
Yeah, I agree totally.
Yeah.
I like hard copies. I mean, I'm old school in that respect. I mean, it's not that I don't back up stuff, like, and even though, like, I have my books and whatever, if there's PDF versions or things that I can put on my, iPad when I'm traveling that I can, because I do that. Like, I'll read, something on, the PDF or whatever that I can while I'm on the plane. I think that's a great way, but I also think it's a backup. It shouldn't be the only thing.
Yeah. Well, on your website, so I'm doing research on you. I've known you for years, but I mean, sitting down talking to somebody on a podcast, this is when you finally get to say, so Mike, how'd you get started in magic? You never really asked that at a convention or hanging out with your friends. On your website, it says that you work for, or you've been featured on NBC, CBS, Fox, ABC, and BET. And I know you, and BET just stuck out to me, and I can't imagine you on BET. How'd you end up on BET, and what was that story?
So, actually, that was kind of crazy, but I was working at Barry's Magic Shop, just outside D.C. there in Wheaton at the time, and that was back when VH1 was just getting started in the music video stuff. So BET had a show called Rap City, if you're familiar with it, and what they did is in between the music videos, they had little segments. So I was featured during the segments in between the music videos, and that we would do a trick, in between. So it went on for like a whole week, which was great. So I got to really perform a lot of magic. It was, like you said, it's, something that you wouldn't expect, kind of a clean cut person, to be on that. And the BET thing was amazing because I believe his name was Chris that came in to do the interviews, but he was so funny, and we had like the best time in the shop, and then we would the interviews and do the magic in between the magic videos, and I listened to all types of music, so I was familiar with like all of the music on BET as well as what's playing on VH1 and country. And I mean, I literally, like, if you listen to what I do, it's everything. I mean, alternative, rap, I mean, it's across the board. So we're sitting there, and I just got done doing a segment. I remember the trick too. I was doing the Lincoln rings, which was put out by Xanadu, where you had two finger rings and you tossed them up in the air and you actually linked together. Super cool trick. And I was sitting there, and I just got done. I tossed it up in the air, the rings linked together. And he's like, "All right, Mike." So he's like, "You down with the OPP?" I was like, "Yeah, Chris, you know me, buddy." Just one of those things that kind of rolled off the tongue. And I wish I have copies of it, but it's on VHS. The problem is I don't even have a VHS player to play it. So even if I found the tapes, they're kind of useless at this point.
No, I have a converter. We can put them on DVD. Then you can make it digital if you wanted. Put it on DVD.
If we did, I might put them out just so everybody can laugh, because that's when before my laser eye surgery, and I had glasses, and I mean, you look at me now, and I've got like a bald head and goatee, and back then I was like the biggest nerd that you could be. So it's actually pretty funny looking back at the pictures. People look at the cover on Miracle Material, and I'm like, yeah, I don't know who that guy is. I was like, it's okay.
Wow, I can't imagine a nerd working in a magic shop. That's unfathomable.
Oh, wow.
So how'd you get started in trade shows? Is that all just because of DC area?
Well, it was, but I worked a lot of birthday parties and stuff, and bar mitzvahs and bat mitzvahs, and basically I was a college kid, right? So I was taking anything that came along from restaurants. I had 3 restaurant gigs. I mean, this is what I was doing during college, right? So it's like, how do I get going, and how do I I was working to my degree, but I needed money to pay for college, and trying to go through the whole thing. And there was things that I was like, I want this, I want that. But so being a kind of halfway smart person, I'm like, okay, what is going to pay the most for the least amount of work, right? So for me, I was like, okay, well, I'm going to start working trade shows. And so I started small, started doing like the local stuff, and the little weekend trade shows and things of that nature. But I quickly realized that the guy that's working like 15, 20 birthday parties a weekend, I can work literally one day and make up for the entire week, right?
Yeah.
So it was one of those things, and and the market at that time for trade show guys was kind of small. There wasn't like a whole lot of people that were like really going after that market. And it's still kind of small in terms of, the high echelon guys. You've got, Seth, and you've got Paul, and, so then you got Danny, and but it's not a big thing, because it really takes a certain type of person, because it's not just about magic. It's about pitching a product. The magic is just the means to pitch, right?
Right.
So, so it's totally different. It's yes, there's entertainment value, but it's more about people getting through the book, getting their booth, getting qualified leads, making sure everything happens. And then there's a second area, which is what I really have started working on, which is more of the hospitality suites, retaining the clients that they already have. So yes, you have the trade show floor where you're trying to, attract new customers, new people to their business. And then you have the other side of it, which is, which to me is a lot more fun. But, that's when they, rent out a private room and, the top floor of the hotel in Vegas, and, they have all their special clients come in and you entertain them for a few hours, right? So that's totally different, because there it is pure entertainment. You might throw in a pitch here or there as you're going through, but for the most part, people are there to have a good time, and that's what your client wants. They want them to associate their name with a good time, so that bring them back and have them go forward.
So I'm not trying to set you up. I swear I'm not. But in the trade show market, you can make a phone call. You can get a phone call and you have to pitch a medical device or a computer doodad or whatever. What's your favorite type of client to work for? It sounds like I'm setting you up. I don't want you to bash any clients, but do you have a favorite?
To be honest, it's the one that I know most about, and it's the turf grass industry. I went to school at University of Maryland for turf grass, so when I work trade shows in the agriculture industry and turf grass, I know more about those products, so it's easier for me to write material and script things.
Okay, there you go. All right. That was a touchy one. I was trying to write that question. I'm like, I don't want him to step on any of his current clients he's gotten. But wow, that makes sense.
Sure. I mean, you do whatever you can for everybody, but I have an extended background in that, so it's easier. So when I'm learning something, say a medical field, I'm researching because I don't know anything about that product, right? But when I'm talking about something that I already know about, it becomes a lot easier. So.
Yeah. So tell me about turf grass, because I was just listening to a podcast the other day that was saying that the old AstroTurf isn't good anymore because everybody's breaking their ankles and different stuff was happening. So now they have like a blend. Can you tell me anything about that stuff?
Yeah. So I'll tell you all about what I mean. We could talk 2 hours just on that.
I'm putting you on the test, man. Do you really know turf grass?
What happens with the old football fields and the old baseball fields, they had seams, right? So the way that it was rolled out, it was actually really hard. They didn't have much underlayment, and it was basically like you hit it, you're landing on concrete.
There you go. Okay.
What happened to that is that it is actually grown on soil. So you have a mat that goes out. It has some artificial fibers in it, but in between the fibers, actually, we're planting real grass, right? So you're getting this mixture of actual turf and artificial turf, and it's a much more consistent surface for play. And so when you cut it with these mowers that are cutting it, half inch or below, if you're talking about a football field, if you're talking about a golf course, you're talking about 3/16 of an inch, right? So I mean. You can really get down to with the mowers and everything that we have today, and the chemicals to really maintain turf at incredible levels. So I mean that's one of those amazing things.
Wow, you do know about that. I was just testing you. That's all that was. Tell me about your one-man show, Imagine. This must have been before I met you.
It was. So yeah, I ran that. I can't remember if it was 3-4 years now, but I did it up and down the East Coast. Lexus was the prime sponsor for it, which is amazing because, I got to perform in all the major cities, and everything was in like a high-end hotel. So it was the Ritz-Carlton. It was the top floor overlooking the Inner Harbor in Baltimore. I had it next to Liberty Bell in Philadelphia. So it was all the whole idea and premise behind the show was to create this unbelievable experience, right? And so the magic itself was based upon magicians of the past. So everything that I did had to do with my idols in magic. People that when I talk about idols, people say, "Oh yeah, it's Doug Henning, it's David Copperfield, it's whoever." And it could be today. You might be talking about Justin Willman, right? So, with Netflix and everything else. So, but back then, like my idols are people, are magicians that really weren't professionals. I mean, you have Max Malini, you have, like I talked about him before, John Ramsey. So the show itself is based upon magic of the past, but presented in a 20th century manner. So it was kind of cool blending the old with the new. And I was very fortunate. I mean, it was sold out for 3 or 4 consecutive years in a row. And like I said, I traveled up and down the East Coast performing it, and it was an amazing time.
Wow. That sounds really neat.
Do you have video footage of anything of that?
I actually do, yeah. So I might post some and put some up there for people to see.
I want to see. Well, just send it to me. You don't have to share it with the world. I just want to see it. So I've only seen you do close-up magic, but I know you do cups and balls, so that could be parlor. But what rooms did you work in the castle? Do you do close-up only in the castle? What do you do when you work the Magic Castle?
I do. So all I perform in is the close-up gallery. So that's my favorite room in the entire building. And while, I've been offered to work other rooms there, I really prefer just to work that room because to me, magic is best experienced close up and live and personal. One of my things, I love stage magic. I do, but I hate when I hear the reaction from people in the audience saying, yeah, but he's 50 feet away. Could have done this or could have done that, right? And so when it happens, like in their hands, or in the case of the close-up gallery, the last row is only 20 feet from the table. You bring this entirely, totally different dynamic to it. And so close-up magic really is my passion. It's what I've always done. Yes, I performed. The largest audience I've performed for is probably 7,000 people on New Year's Eve in D.C. And obviously, I'm not doing close-up magic for that type of a crowd. So there, I'm doing, stand-up performance pieces, maybe a levitation, or I did, color-changing handkerchiefs, or, stuff that will play for a larger audience. But even though I love that, to me, it's a great change of pace. I love to be up there, and I'm fortunate in the fact that I have so many great magicians that I can call on and be like, hey, this is not my forte. I've got this going on, and they'll sit with me, a month or two ahead and go over the blocking and things of that nature. Rick Wilcox out in the Dells has his own theater. He's a great friend of mine, and his show is amazing, and I love the lighting and everything that he does. And I'm fortunate when I get to sit down with him and his wife, and we can talk about magic and decide what we're trying to do. And Chris Pillsworth up in Canada. I mean, so many guys that I'm very fortunate in that I know so many talented people.
Wow. I was just watching an interview the other day with Paul Daniels, and he was talking about how great Rick Wilcox was. And this was, 10 years ago. And I'm like, wow, I've never seen Rick work, but everybody just says how great he is. And Chris Pillsworth, I love that dude. He's awesome.
Yeah, so magic, it's spread out and it's around the world, but as you know, we're a small community, so you have your 10,000, 15,000 core, magicians that are doing this, full time. They're out there, and I'm not saying you have to be a full time magician. Some of the best magicians I know are not. They're part time magicians. They have regular jobs. There's so many amazing people that are like that. And I think the fact is that when you get to a certain level and willing to share with other people, I think that's the best. I hate to see people that shun somebody because they're not to their level. That is something that just irritates me. It just gets to my core, and I'm just like, so if I'm at a convention and I see somebody sitting in the corner, I'll go up and introduce myself. I'll start sharing stuff with them, and I think that's what everybody should do. Whether if you're a beginner, been in for 20 years, 50 years, what have you, we all have something to learn from each other. And when I lecture, I might be the lecturer. I might be the guy going around the country or the world touring because I was supposed to be in Australia this last year, and unfortunately COVID killed it. But when I'm touring and I'm doing this, I might be the quote guy coming in that everybody wants to learn from, but I learn as much from the audience and the people that are there as I give to them. And to be honest, I almost feel like it's not fair. Like I'm getting so much more out of it than they are. So while I'm creative and I write books and I've been around the block once or twice, I think that it's amazing to meet people and hear the stories and see what's happening. And it's such a great way to live, and I'm so happy that I do what I do.
And sometimes it's when they ask a question during a lecture, and you're like, that's a great idea. I never thought about approaching it from that way. Just that one thing can spark and make the whole trip worthwhile.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
I mean, that's exactly what I'm talking about. I mean, you get into that, and you're just like, I mean, you're going on, and it's like, well, have you ever tried this? And it's like, I haven't, but I'm glad you said that, because now I'm going to take that and experiment with it and go through. And there's many times that's happened to me, and I'll go through and I'll be sitting there, I'm like, well, what if I did this instead, right? And come up with something much better. And even though I create a lot of magic, I never consider anything a finished piece. So I think that's important. I think that, even though it's in print and in the book it might be completed, it's never done. So there's many times that things that I've written up, if you watch me lecture now, I might perform it, but it's totally different.
Yeah. Well, I mean, singers are the same way. I mean, you go buy the CD and the guy doesn't sing it the same way in concert because he's trying a new way. He's the old way just doesn't fit him anymore.
Yeah, exactly.
So let's get into some products here. I went looking on your website, went shopping today, and I was drooling on my computer. I had to wipe off my keyboard. But I didn't see your books on there. Do you not have your books on your website?
To be honest, I'm not sure if they're on there. I had them on there at one time because I did so there's one tab, I think it's called More. And so my website is mostly all my, cups and balls and wands and things of that nature. And then I have one tab which says More, which is more or less the stuff that you would find in my lectures, right? Some of the effects and DVDs and stuff like that. And that I change, off and on. So that tab, I'm not sure what's on there right now. My latest book was Seemingly Impromptu, which Michael Weber wrote the introduction for, and it's all apparently impromptu magic. Some requires a little bit of advanced preparation, but I loved his book Lifesavers. Back in the day, it was an amazing book, and Michael Weber, as we all know, is a genius magician. So I was very fortunate that he was happy to go through and write a couple kind words and put it in the introduction for me. But so that's the last book that I wrote. Right now, I'm writing a Cups and Balls book, which is over 500 pages right now without any illustrations. So that's coming out. Hopefully next year I'll get that done. I also have a Chop Cup book, which is almost completed. So these are some of the things that during COVID I've been working on and trying to button up, because I've been working on them for so many years. But it's just a matter of time. And when you're writing is, if you've ever done it, is not something you just sit down and do. You have to be in the right frame of mind. You have to be in that kind of zen place to put down the pen to paper and make it make sense to people. Otherwise it's very hard writing a technical book. A lot of people, and also make it entertaining, right? So one of my favorite books is Chris Kenner's book, right? And so when I read that, I crack up because he put so much humor into his writing that it was such a fantastic book. And the fact that you have to flip the book over halfway through and everything, I just love it. Totally out of control. If you don't have it, you definitely should pick it up. It's a great book.
Well, I'm looking at your More section now. You got delivery system, Cobalt cards, lemon drop, and product list. That's all it says for More.
So that changes. Like I said, that's one of those things that I put up there and put different things in there as far as what I have at the time and what I'm trying to do. So, but at any time, usually after I do a lecture tour, there's more information under that tab.
Okay.
But now, since I haven't been out on the tour, out touring, lately, it's pretty slim. In fact, my whole website, to be honest, right now with COVID, it basically shut down a lot of stuff. I can't get materials. I can't, get stuff. So it's pretty slim pickings at the moment. I don't want it to be that way, but trying to find exotic woods to turn wands out of and things of that nature, you just can't get them. I mean, even a regular 2x4 and the Lowe's went up like 10 not 10%, but like 100% in terms of what it was through COVID. So trying to find these exotic materials and sterling silver and everything that I deal with, because here's the thing about my products. My products originally were never made to sell. Everything that I've created was for myself. I never intended to sell anything. The only reason that I started selling my cups is because the set that I wanted to make for myself, I spent so much in R&D and trying to make the cups that I had $15,000 invested. I had to sell 100 sets of cups just to get some money back to help offset my expenses. So it was never something that I went out, I started because I'm like, oh yeah, I'm going to start selling these. That had nothing to do with it. I was just very fortunate that I put 100 sets out, and within 27 days, I sold 100 sets of cups.
Wow.
Right? So they were gone within 1 month, and I didn't do anything for 20 years. And then all of a sudden, I decided that, hey, I can make these cups better, because I don't think you don't just create a product to put it out there. You only create it if it's warranted. And for that long, I was happy with the cups that I created. But then I decided to sit down and really go through it and say, hey, how can I tweak these? What can I do to make them better? And, I'm very fortunate. I'm one of the few, cup manufacturers that really creates a quality product. You've got Donnie at Rings and Things. You've got Brett Sherwood. And you've got Brian Watson in England. But aside from that small group, there's really nobody that's creating those type of products. And we stand behind everything that we put out. And I think that's important. If there's ever a customer service issue or anything, I mean, I'm right on it. Like, I'll take care of it. There's never anything that has to be done because, my stuff is not inexpensive. I understand that, but you're also getting what you pay for. And I truly believe that. There's innovations, there's things that I've done that no other people have done, in terms of what they're doing with the cups and the wands and stuff like that. So, when I put a product out, I don't put my name on it if I don't think it's the best that I can produce.
Well, I know it's beautiful. And so I saw your lecture. I don't know if it was IBM or SAM during COVID. And it was your cup lecture. You have your own lecture just for cups and balls. And when I say this, it's not going to sound right for the listeners. But you did, 10 minutes, maybe 5 minutes, just talking about the different parts of the cup, explaining the mouth of the cup, the rim, and the different technical terms of the cup. And, and I'm like, you know what? I've been doing magic since I was 7 years old, and I've never had anyone ever go over this. I was riveted. It sounds awful to anybody listening. Mike, help me out, man. But you went into detail explaining what the heck the different parts of a cup. It's a cup. Everybody uses a cup every day. But you...
Well, we do, but the thing is, my whole basis for that is that if you're learning, right, you can't learn unless you understand what you're dealing with. And so we have technical terms for each part of the cup, which I rarely hear people talk about.
I've never heard it ever once before you, ever.
But when you talk about descriptiveness and you're writing it down, and even just the basics of stacking versus nesting, right? Are you stacking the cups? That means the mouth of the cup is face down on the table, and you're stacking them on top. If you flip them over, the exact same process is now called nesting, right? But we can't understand if we're writing and we're learning. So the first thing that we need to do before we can teach a routine is to get everybody on the same page as far as, what part of the cup. Because if I tell you, all right, so put your third finger on the saddle and your fourth finger on the dimple, right? That means nothing unless you know what the saddle and the dimple are.
Yeah. No, I'd never heard any of that. I have several books on cups and balls. I've never seen the saddle mentioned. Not that I remember. No, I thought it was pretty fascinating.
Yeah, so it's really just getting everybody on the same page. So we're all starting from zero. We're all at the same point. We can go from there, and then it becomes a lot easier to follow. So the cups and balls, yes, it's definitely one of my passions in Magic. Just like Joe Rhineflesh is like to rubber bands. I mean, Joe and I have had this conversation on more than one occasion, and Joe, for all those youngsters out there, Joe Rhineflesh probably does more amazing Magic without rubber bands than he does with. Okay, he has contributed so much to the art of Magic with cards and coins and all sorts of other implements. But he's become known as the rubber band guy, and he should be, because for one, did he do any rubber band Magic? And this is not a pitch for I'm not getting paid for this endorsement or anything, but by all means, get his rubber bands, right? And if you do, you'll know why. Because the elasticity, they stretch, before they're going to break. They're vibrant, they're colorful, he has all sorts of different things. And then, obviously the routines that he puts together. I mean, Crazy Man's handcuffs, just a torn and restored rubber band. If you saw his version of it, it makes you think twice about, like, have you ever, why are you doing it the way you've done it for 25 years? It's just amazing to see him, like, the way his mind works. We were sitting at MAES one year, and he's trying to solve the Rubik's Cube, literally solve a Rubik's Cube with rubber bands.
Wow.
I was like, are you kidding me? He wasn't touching it with his hands. He had the rubber bands wrapped in the Rubik's Cube, and he's twisting it, and the thing's solving itself. I was like, that's amazing.
Wow. That's interesting.
So, my thing with Joe, I'm a big Rocco fan. Rocco was the first magician I ever saw lecture, and he was on those Delight videos. Do you remember that?
Oh, yeah, I remember
That's how I knew who Joe Rhineflesh was. He was the nerd in the videos. So funny. He had the lab coat on, the glasses, and he's making him go through his ears. And the Delight.
I'm gonna remind him of that tomorrow. I'm gonna call him and tell him.
Dude, I got the DVDs. I'm telling you, I was big into anything Rocco put out. I bought them. Yeah, so I got all those DVDs. So if you need me to upload something and send it to you, I'd be more than happy to.
That'd be great.
So go ahead.
No, I was going to say, it's what we do, right? So we, if we have, not skeletons in our closet, but if we've got these old Magic videos of us performing, I love to see them because it makes us cringe when we watch them. It's like, really?
Oh, it was great at the time you were doing them, but now that you're looking back on it, you're like, oh my.
Well, tell him the story of my marketing video from high school.
Oh, yeah, that was funny. He was in marketing class in high school, and it was great. He's got he recorded himself singing the song do 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 do, and then he recorded himself singing something else, and then an overlay of his voice saying whatever he had to have saying. He had it all playing at the same time, and it was.
And I was floating a dollar bill. It was my commercial for me doing magic.
Yeah. That
so
was great.
Funny. I remember in college we had this contest in our dorm to win a pizza, like literally win a pizza. So, but you're a college kid. It's like, I get free pizza. Yeah, we'll do it. So,
right.
So do you remember the commercials where you had like your brain on drugs and stuff, and they'd like crack the egg in the pan and everything, and you like cried and stuff.
Absolutely.
So I did a combination of that, but with David Copperfield-esque kind of a thing. And it was just so funny. And I remember doing it, and I was like, I can't believe I just did that. I was like, that's absolutely. So I did this whole thing. It's like brain on drugs, and I cracked this egg into the pan, and I flipped it up, and a bird flew out and stuff. I was just like, oh my God.
That's great.
That's awesome. So I have your impromptu magic book. I can't recommend it highly enough. I have so many magic books in my collection, and you said you were writing an impromptu book when I talked to you at MAES, and I'm like, really? Do we need another? Dude, it's awesome. You did a great job. You came to our local club, and I saw you there, and I bought it from you, and it's sitting right next to my couch upstairs in my magic room. I love it. I refer to it all the time. It's a great book, man.
I appreciate that. So here's a little funny story about that book is that I'd written the whole book, and I sent it to Michael to Weber to look at and read it. And I sent him. I did a few things for him. I forget where I was doing the Penguin Magic Expos and stuff, and we were together. And so I did some of the magic for him. And he's like, yeah. He's like, I'll write it. So he wrote the whole introduction, put it together, and then I had to print it, and I gave him a copy. And he goes, this last trick, he goes, that wasn't in there when you gave it to me, was it? I'm like, no, that wasn't in there. And so it's a signed bill in Sharpie, and he's like, that's amazing. And I was like, yeah. I said, so I wasn't sure I really wanted to give it away and put it in there, but it's one of those things. I was just like, if you hold on to stuff, I see this happen all the time. People are like, it's like, I want to hold it. I think that we should do the opposite. I think we should share and share and share. I think that, the more that we can put out there and the more that people can understand where we're coming from and help each other out, the better off this art form is going to be. So I decided to put it in there, and it's been a huge, I was originally going to market it and put it out and sell it for, $35 or $50 or whatever. But I said, why do that? I said, people can go and get the necessary things for, $5, from the store. Because it's not about trying to make money. It's about trying to, make the art form better. And so that's what I did. I put it in the book and put it out there. And, I'm glad I did. So it's one of those things that I always get comments on. And I think Chicago Magic Inc. out there in Chicago put it on their webpage. So if you want to see it, you can go to their webpage and you can, Google it. You can see it.
Awesome. Your signature wands, your fancy magic wands. So with COVID and everything, your websites, everything's bought out. It's hard to get new stuff. But you're starting to book new lectures and stuff's starting to ramp up. So if somebody sees one of these and starts drooling over them, is there a waiting list? How does that work?
So no, like what I'm trying to do is, I'm taking orders and everything will be, fulfilled, but we're at the point now where I actually, I'm starting to get the things in. I'm starting to be able to, get things made again and put up. So awesome. I would say within the next probably month and a half, I'll have a pretty good inventory back in all of my products again. The only other thing that I have coming out, which is new, is I'm working on some new, if you're familiar with the fake fruit that I put out.
Yeah.
I have a new, it's going to be called the Professional Lemon Set, which it's basically 3 lemons, but they're designed to maximize the appearance coming out of the standard cups. So easier to load in. Same material as that I make out of all of my fake fruit, which is plastisol, which is a PVC resin. So, something that's going to far outlive any of us. We don't have to worry about that, but it's not rubber, because rubber just doesn't work as far as fake fruit's concerned. That was one of the biggest things, is trying to make sure that, I had the right material. So, for years and years, I was lecturing, and everybody's like, oh, you're a cup guy. Can you get, MR's fat fruit? And I was like, no, you can't get it anymore. Like, it's discontinued. I said, and I kept getting these questions. Can I get some? Do you know where I can find it? And so I decided, rather than try and find it, I would just create my own. So that's what I did, and it's been a huge success. At Magiclife, I think I sold probably 5,000 pieces of fruit one year.
Wow.
So it's a big thing, but something that, like, if you're like me and you're traveling, you're a professional, you don't need to go to the grocery store to find the products. So everything you have is always with you. The problem is that it's so realistic that you will get stopped at airports. I will tell you that right now. So they will search your luggage. I have not made it through an airport without being stopped at security in probably 8 years.
Goodness.
So, it's one of those things that I allow for it because I know it's going to happen. I've been in those little rooms in Iceland and all sorts of other countries because, you're not allowed to bring produce across, internationally and everything else. So, I find out what those little rooms are about. It's luckily they hold flights for you. So, you don't miss the flight, but it's kind of interesting because you don't get to eat either.
Mike, I got your new commercial, man. I have a degree in marketing. I got it. You just need to bring a video with you. Just videotape that experience of being in the holding cell and them questioning you over the fruit. You'll sell. I mean, how can it be more realistic? They're questioning you at checkpoint, man. That's perfect. That crap is realistic.
So one of my friends in DC, Eric Henning, he was doing a thing on the local news station, and it was for, I think it was for Cinco de Mayo or something, and he produced a beer out of a change bag or something, and then he produced like one of the lemons that I made, and it fell on the table, and the co-host or whatever, she picked it up and she like looks at it and she goes, "Yep, it's a lie," and just put it right back down. It's like not even questioning that it was a piece of fake fruit. I put it in restaurants, like for my friends who are chefs, just to mess with them. so if they have like a bowl of limes or lemons, I'll like toss one of mine in there. It's just one of those fun things I do.
Wow. So, do you have your lecture tour coming up? Do you have anything booked now?
So the next thing that I have a couple lectures coming up. Some that have been canceled last year because of COVID in the South, like South Carolina and Georgia and stuff. But the biggest thing that I have on the books is in November, which is a Magic conference down there in Mexico City. So I'll be doing Magic down
cool.
there.
Wow. So we have listeners in 28 different countries now. How can people book you if they want to get whether a Zoom lecture like the one that I saw or have you come to their club? Do they contact you through corporatemagician.com or is there some other way?
So yeah, the easiest way is just to go to corporatemagicman.com or it's corporatemagicman@yahoo.com. Either one will get you to me, but email me and I'll get right back to you. Or if you have to, it's easier for people to spell. Just go to mkcups.com. That's my products website, and you can look at all the stuff that I have out there and contact me through there. But I get back to everybody. So fear not, if you send me an email, you'll get a response.
Awesome. Yeah, I messed that up. It's corporatemagicman.com. So scrolling through Facebook, I've been a friend of yours on Facebook, I don't know, 5 years now, something like that. This Harley thing seems new. Have you always had a Harley?
Well, I've always loved riding bikes and having that, but recently I just decided to let everybody else know about it. Facebook is a funny thing. You put out there what you want people to know. So sometimes you put things out there, sometimes you hold stuff for yourself, and I always laugh at Facebook because you don't see any of the bad things that people go through, right? It's always saying, I'm doing this or I'm doing that, or it's like, I'm excited about this, and that's great. Positivity is a great thing to have, but then again, I'm a realist, so I realize that the entire world isn't like that the entire time, right? So, and especially through this last year of COVID and stuff, I really got, into riding and having a good time and going out there. And in fact, I was out riding today, and I had my best friend with me, and we went out and had a good time. And it's one of those things that everybody has a vice that relaxes them. That's one of mine.
Have you always had a Harley? I tell Wes, I next bike we get, I think I want to get a Harley. Because we haven't had a Harley yet. And I was like, I think I want a Harley. I want to try a Harley. And he's like, I don't know. Have you always had a Harley, and do you love them?
I'll let you ride mine, and then you'll know. You'll be like, yeah, I definitely want a Harley. No,
ha ha ha. There you go.
So Mike, here's Natalie. You teased her now. So I had old girlfriends on my bike, and it would be like, hey, we're going to the movie theater tonight. You want to take the motorcycle? No, I don't want to mess up my hair. Well, then I'm dating Natalie, and it's like, hey, we're going to the grocery store, and Natalie's saying, hey, can we take the motorcycle? Natalie loves the motorcycle, man.
And we only need like two things. We can totally carry that on the motorcycle. Let's take the motorcycle.
Absolutely.
Right.
She wants to take it everywhere.
Saddlebags, it's not a problem. Just toss it in the saddlebags.
There you go. I love riding on a motorcycle. It's great. It's so much fun.
It is. It's one of the most exhilarating and freeing experiences, and it's hard to everybody some people are like, oh, I can't believe that, and yes, I mean there's things can happen no matter what, in a car,
Right.
on a bike, whatever. But for me, it's one of those things that I just love going. And right now, I'm up in the Pocono Mountains of Pennsylvania, and it's 50 degrees here. It's like chilly.
Wow.
So today I was out riding and had a sweatshirt on, and you're up in these back roads, and deer are everywhere, and it's just a whole different experience. Because going 50 on a bike and 50 in a car is totally different.
Right.
And you see
Yes.
10 times more than you do in a car.
Oh my goodness, yes.
Yeah, absolutely. It totally brings the world into a different perspective. So, I absolutely love it. It's one of my favorite things to do. And if I'm not practicing or performing, that's where you'll find me.
Nice.
Awesome, dude.
I love it.
Well, dude, that's an hour. We just did it. You're awesome. Thank you so much for doing that with us, man.
It seems like we just started, but I really appreciate it. You guys are great, man. I look forward to seeing you next time, the next convention, or wherever our paths meet. But I'm so happy to be here, and thanks for having me on.
Well, stay on the line, because I got to do a couple plugs, and I have a couple things to tell you off the air here. But corporatemagicman.com, Michael Kaminskas, mkcups.com for Michael Kaminskas, mkcups.com. Check him out. And he changes the website, so the stuff that he has for sale, he'll update it and change it up. And check out that impromptu book if you're not into cups and balls. That daggone impromptu book is awesome. Check it out. On August 7th at 6:30 p.m., we'll be performing our Illusion show at Goochland County Parks and Rec. For tickets, go to goochlandva.us or call 804-556-5854. And we are so happy to announce that our new merch is now available at wesisley.com. That's logo t-shirts, my TV and podcast t-shirts, Magic Man hats, stickers, playing cards, and more. It's all available now at wesisley.com. And tonight on Jewel TV, they're re-airing episode 4 from season 2 called Homeschool Gym Class. Jewel TV is on Roku, Apple TV, Amazon Fire, the Jewel TV app, and tons of other places. It's in over 100 million households. All you have to do is look for it. See you next week. Today's episode of the podcast is sponsored by Express Copy and Graphics. Mention promo code Wes Iseli to get 10% off. Their website is expresscopy.com. That's XPRESS-COPY.com. They do it all. Copies, banners, signs, vehicle wraps, promo items, practically anything you need printed, they can do it for you. These guys are great. Check them out. Check us out online at wesisley.com and patreon.com/Wes_Iseli for behind-the-scenes videos, blooper videos, never-before-seen footage, discounts on merchandise, magic trick tutorials, and more. That's Wes Iseli, spelled WESISELI.